Hey everybody, Ryan here with Ray's Latest, and today we're going to talk about Tristan Peters officially being traded after being DFA'd earlier this week, as well as a possible Jorge Polanco signing that was oh so close to kind of getting put into place here for the Tampa Bay Rays. And we're going to kind of dive into a statement that Eric Neander made when asked about kind of the future of this offseason earlier this week. But first, we're going to talk about Tristan Peters, who was DFA'd to make room for Steven Matz on the 40 man. He was traded to the Chicago White Sox in exchange for a PDNBL, player to be named later, or cash consideration. So, well, obviously, that's kind of just out of our control from from pretty much. It's not necessarily up to us as a Rays organization as it is as much up to the White Sox to kind of be like, hey, this is what we kind of want to do, what we're looking to kind of get towards either giving you a player or just giving you cash at the end of the day. And we've seen that kind of happen. We see it a lot more often from a Rays perspective. It's getting a player to be named later and kind of just straight up for cash considerations, I feel like. And I mainly think that that's kind of the case because the players that we are in fact trading and kind of in fact are getting DFAing and things of that nature aren't at the highest level of what you see a lot of other teams kind of trading away, or that they trade away. And I think that's just a testament to the fact that we try to keep our players for as long as we can. And the trades that we do see that are big guys that we have to trade, like Blake Snell and Tyler Glass now, and Chris Archer at the time, players like that is just the ones that we just can't afford. And we are going to get a haul regardless. We're not trading away Blake Snell for cash considerations or a player to be named later. That's just not going that would never happen in a million years. And so I think just the reason why we see the player to be named later in cash only is kind of just a way for the Rays to just try to stockpile as much money as we can to sign other players and things of that nature. And I think it's great for Tristan Peters kind of getting a fresh start somewhere else. And being that it's the White Sox, they've kind of had some struggles in the outfield and pretty much struggles all over. I think he's going to get ample opportunities to prove himself at the big league level. And I do think it's kind of funny though. I feel like all of our deals that we make in the last like 15 years has just happened to be with the White Sox, and I don't know. I think it might just be a reason as they're kind of on the same wavelength as us where it comes to finances, and kind of they're just trying to rebuild. And I don't know exactly kind of how they look into things, but we always seem to do deals with the White Sox. Not complaining, it usually works out pretty decently well for us. So that is what happened with Tristan Peters after being DFA'd earlier this week. Jorge Polanco recently signed a deal with the New York Mets for 2 years, $40 million. Had one of his best seasons that he's had. I think this is the second best season that he's had in his career. And he's a career 263 hitter. He's hit 154 homers. He's got a career WAR of a 20.7, which is pretty good. And I think the kind of the main draw from Polanco, especially from a race perspective, is he can play anywhere. He can play. I A lot of the articles I was seeing, the Rays were really looking towards him as a DH, first base, second, third, short, kind of anywhere in the infield. And his season last year, he had the second best season of his career. So in 2021 was his best year. He hit 269 with 33 homers, just shy of 100 RBIs at 98, stole 11 bases, struck out 118 times, which is a little high, but to kind of put it in perspective, it's not as high as it's a normal number, I would say. Let's just say if you play 162 games, if you hit at the top of the lineup, you get 4 at bats a game. You're getting close to you're getting 500 plus at bats and only striking out roughly around 20% of the time. It's still a little high of a number, striking out one every 5 times, but at the end of the day, it's not like an egregious thing that you really have to worry about. This past season, rather, he hit 265, only struck out 82 times, had 125 hits, which was the third most rather in his career that he's had in a single season. He had 26 homers and had 78 RBIs. And his walk numbers were up from the previous 2 years that had 42 walks. So that bat parlayed with the fact that he can play anywhere on the infield would have been a real huge get for the Rays. And I get it. At the end of the day, you just got outbid. I mean, you can't afford to pay a guy $20 million a year. Realistically, we kind of tried that experiment with Ha-Seong Kim, and it just blew up right in our face. And I think that the front office is kind of just skeptical and scared to kind of commit to doing something like that again for a free agent infielder, especially with the infield that we have. When you have Lau, you have Aranda, you have Caminero, you have Carson Williams and Taylor Walls. It's it's one of those things that if you're gonna spend that much money on a player, I think it's just gonna solely be an outfielder. And the reason why I say that is because I just think that we have so much leverage and control on the players in our infield that it's not necessarily a smart risk to drop 20 million on another infielder. And don't get me wrong, yes, he would be a great contributor to the team, but I don't think he plays every day over Yandy Diaz. He doesn't play every day over Aranda. He doesn't play over Brandon Lau every day. He definitely doesn't play over Caminero every day. And the thing is he would be a primary shortstop if you were to plug him in an everyday lineup. And then that's you giving away a platinum glove in Taylor Walls mixed with Carson Williams here and there. So I think at the end of the day, it just really didn't make much sense logistically to spend that much money on a player. Don't get me wrong, he would have been a fantastic addition to the team and to the lineup, but I just think, especially from a Rays perspective, it just doesn't make a lot of sense financially. And I do think that he's going to do great in New York, and I wish him the best. But just that deal was just so close to happening. Thought I would speak on it a little bit. You guys let me know what you guys think about it. But I do think logistically wise, it just wasn't a great fit comparative to the infielders that we do have and the financials of it. I don't think that the Neander thought it was a good decision. I don't think it would have been a good decision either. But we will transition over to Neander. Speaking of, he was asked on if the team is targeting more moves to kind of improve the roster ahead of spring training. And I'll just read the whole quote word for word exactly from what he said. He said, "I still think we're in a place where, if there's talent that we can bring in here for 2026 or for beyond that, we're going to be looking to do that. Obviously, each passing day, you're mindful of making it the most functional roster it can be. Right now, it's just your eyes and ears are open for any ways you can find improvement now or later. You keep running out those plays until we're a little closer to camp. At some point here, we need to create the most functional roster possible." And I've tried to think of this multiple ways, and I think at the end of the day, it's one of those things where he is trying to improve the roster. He knows that there's holes that need to be filled. He knows that there's a bunch of arbitration eligible players that I touched on yesterday about that need to be re-signed that probably will get a little bit more money than league minimum, I would say. So that's going to kind of dive into the pockets a little bit. But I think from kind of what he said about just going through it and kind of just using your eyes and ears is I think it's more of he's not going to venture out and compromise what he's got going on to make something happen unless it kind of just falls into his lap perfectly. That's what I kind of get out of that. You guys let me know what you kind of interpret that as. But I think that he's just kind of letting everything come to him. And I think he's kind of just letting people bring offers and bring deals and bring players to him and seeing if it kind of fits the logistics of what we're trying to do as an organization. And I think it's a really smart idea. Obviously, you want to go out and you want to get the Ketel Martes. You want to go out and you want to get the Jorge Blancos. You want to go out. You want to do a lot of these things to kind of just bolster the team. But I think it just comes down to financially, we can't afford a lot of these players. And I think that's kind of push us out of the Ketel Marte conversation down the line, which I think we might already kind of be at after they re-signed Merrill Kelly, kind of lessening the load of them needing Shane Baz and Pepio. So I think that he's just kind of seeing everything unfold in front of him and just letting things come to him, and he's not actively trying to just throw the roster on fire. And I think it's a really smart idea. I think we're in a great core position with Aranda and Lau and Caminero and McClanahan and Rasmussen and Brandon Lau, Cedric Mullins now, Chandler Simpson, Shank Bingham. You have a good core that is really, really, really young and you have under control for quite some time. So there's no need to kind of go out and take a stab at some of these players when you have Caminero under control for 4 more years. He's an all-star. He's one of the best third basemen in baseball. He's got one of the best bats in the league. And it's one of those things where you see kind of all the young talent that we've accumulated over the years, especially from the draft. And you have the number 2 overall pick this year. Everything kind of just comes all full circle into one big just bowl, and you're looking at it and you're like, wow, I have all of this. I don't really want to go out of my way to throw away Chandler Simpson and Jake Mangum to go out and get an outfielder that you kind of probably have to slightly overpay on what you're used to and giving up this, especially under control for the next 4 years, getting paid league minimum. I think it's just one of those things where you got to kind of outweigh the pros and the cons of each situation and just let everything kind of come to you and make the best decision for the organization. And I think that's exactly what he's doing, and he's not actively trying to sell. And I think he's not actively trying to buy either. He's just letting offers come across his table, checking, okay, I kind of like that. Nope, not going to do that. And I think that's what he should do. And I think that's kind of what that statement says. And he's kind of not looking forward to making any more crazy bolsterous moves, kind of just trying to shape the roster into the best possible situation for 2026. And I think he's doing a great job with that. So you guys let me know what you guys think about kind of what he said and what you think about my interpretation of it, as well as what you think about the Peters trade, as well as Jorge Polanco being a very close possibility and kind of just getting outbid at the last minute. But you guys have a great one and have a great weekend.